Ilara had always thought her life was ordinary. She lived in a small village at the edge of a dense forest, a place where the trees were so thick that sunlight struggled to touch the ground. The villagers whispered of old stories, of shadows and spirits, but Ilara paid them little mind. Her world was simple: quiet streets, friendly neighbors, and the gentle rhythm of her work at the village apothecary. Everything changed the day she discovered she was pregnant. She had chosen a medical procedure that promised a future she could control, a child she could bring into the world without complication. But when the doctor confirmed the pregnancy, a strange unease settled over her. She felt no joy, no anticipation, only a cold, heavy weight pressing against her chest. That night, as she walked home through the fog-laden streets, the forest beyond seemed alive in a way it never had before. The wind whispered secrets through the branches, and the leaves rustled as though tiny hands were brushing against each other. Ilara's steps faltered. She was not alone. From the shadows, eyes watched. Yellow, gleaming, unblinking. Her heart thumped against her ribs, fast and uneven. She tried to rationalize it. Maybe it was a stray animal, a fox, a wolf. But something deep in her gut told her this was different. Something ancient and knowing. By the time she reached her small cottage, the unease had grown into a quiet panic. She locked the door and leaned against it, trying to steady her breathing. The child within her moved, and she felt a strange warmth, a pulse that was both comforting and terrifying. She wanted to believe her baby was safe. She wanted to believe in ordinary life again, but the forest did not forget. Later that evening, soft tapping sounded at her window. She froze. Her hand shook as she drew back the curtain, and what she saw made her breath catch. A wolf, larger than any she had ever seen, its fur black as midnight, stood at the edge of her garden. Its eyes glowed with a strange, golden light, intelligent and piercing. It tilted its head, staring at her as if it could see every secret of her heart. Ilara stumbled backward. "Who? What are you?" she whispered. The wolf did not answer, of course. But the air around it seemed to hum, charged with a power she could not name. She felt a pull, as though the creature could reach into her mind and glimpse her deepest fears. Her child. Her unborn baby. The thought struck her like lightning. She did not sleep that night. She sat by the fire, hands resting on her belly, watching the shadows dance across the walls. The forest beyond seemed to breathe, alive with movement, and she knew with a certainty that terrified her, that her child was no ordinary child. The next morning, she found a note slipped under her door. The handwriting was elegant, almost inhuman. "The child is wanted. Protect what is yours, or all will be lost." Her pulse quickened. She wanted to ignore it, to tell herself it was a prank, but deep down, she knew it was a warning she could not dismiss. The sun rose, weak and pale, filtering through the mist. Ilara packed a small bag. She could not stay. The forest had eyes, and the child within her had drawn attention she could not fight alone. She needed help. That help arrived in the form of Kale. He appeared at the edge of her cottage, as if he had been there all along, merging from the shadows like a living part of the forest. He was tall, with dark hair that fell into his eyes, and a presence that made her heart race, even as it warned her to be cautious. His clothes were worn, almost like a traveler's garb, but there was something about him, something not quite human, that made Ilara instinctively step back. "I know what you carry," he said, his voice low and steady, "and I know why they are coming." Ilara stared at him, unsure whether to run or listen. "Who are you?" she asked, her voice trembling. "And what do you mean, they?" Kale took a careful step closer, his eyes never leaving hers. "They are not ordinary animals," he said. "The wolves of this forest. They are bound to an ancient magic. They do not hunt for food. They hunt for destiny. And your child is part of it." Ilara shook her head. "Destiny. Magic. This is insane." Kale's gaze softened slightly, though it did not lose its intensity. "I know it is hard to believe. I would not have come to you if it were not true. You are not safe here. They will come for the child. They will come for you." Fear gripped her chest. She felt trapped, cornered between disbelief and the undeniable pull of danger. The wolf she had seen last night could be anywhere, listening, waiting. Why? Why should I trust you? She asked, though part of her already knew she had little choice. Cale did not answer immediately. He merely reached into his coat and produced a small pendant carved from black stone. He held it up, and the light seemed to bend around it, pulsing like a heartbeat. "This will protect you for now," he said, "but only temporarily. You need to leave the village. Come with me, and I will explain everything." Ilara hesitated. The thought of leaving her home, of stepping into a world she did not understand, terrified her. Yet the fear in her gut was stronger than her desire to stay. She nodded. "All right. I'll go with you." Cale's lips curved in a faint, almost imperceptible smile. "Good, but be ready. The night is full of eyes, and they will not wait for us to be prepared." As they moved through the forest, the mist thickened. Every sound, the snap of a branch, the rustle of leaves, made her heart jump. Cale moved with a grace that was almost unnatural, stepping lightly over roots and stones, his eyes scanning the darkness constantly. After hours of walking, they reached a clearing where the trees formed a circle around an ancient stone altar, covered in moss and etched with symbols that glowed faintly in the twilight. "This is where I first learned of the wolves' true nature," Cale said, his voice echoing softly through the clearing. "This altar marks the center of their territory. They are drawn to bloodlines, to children who carry the old magic. Your child carries something they have waited for centuries to find." Lara's stomach tightened. "Why me? Why my child?" Cale looked at her with a seriousness that made her shiver. "Because the prophecy says the child will choose the balance between worlds, human and supernatural, life and destruction, and they are coming tonight to claim what is theirs." The first howl ripped through the night. It was not a simple wolf's cry. It was a call of command, full of intelligence, rage, and purpose. Ilara froze. Her child kicked, and she felt a strange warmth, almost a defiance rising within her. Cale placed a hand on her shoulder. "Hold on to that," he said. "Your child is not just a passenger in this story. They are a force, and so are you." The wind picked up, carrying with it the scent of the wolves. Shadows moved at the edge of the clearing. Their eyes glowed, and Ilara realized with a shock that they surrounded her. The forest had become a cage, and the wolves were the jailers. Cale stepped in front of her, sword drawn, his figure a barrier between her and the predators. "Do not be afraid," he said. "Not yet. We fight tonight, but we survive together. You will see who you truly are, and they will see who we are." Ilara's hands trembled, but her grip tightened on the pendant Cale had given her. She felt the pulse of magic from it, steady and warm. Her child moved again, and she felt an unexpected surge of courage. Perhaps she was not as powerless as she had thought. From the darkness, a wolf emerged, larger than the others, its eyes locked on her child. Ilara's breath caught. She stepped forward, even as Cale's hand stayed lightly on her arm. "Stay behind me," he warned, but she shook her head. "No, this is my child. If they want it, they will have to face me." The wolf paused, as if considering her words, then tilted its head. A low growl rolled through the clearing. The air was electric with tension. Ilara and Cale stared at the creature, hearts beating in rhythm with the night. And then the forest erupted with howls. The pack had surrounded them completely. Ilara's world narrowed to the pounding of her heart. The warmth of her child inside her, and the figure of Cale standing resolute beside her. For the first time, she understood. Her life, her child, and even the man before her were now part of something far greater than she could have imagined, a story written in blood. Magic and destiny. The howl of the alpha rose above the rest, sharp and commanding. Ilara's hands went to her belly instinctively. The child within her responded with a kick that felt like defiance. She met Cale's eyes. "We are not ready to lose," she whispered. Cale nodded. "Then we fight. Tonight, we survive." The wind swept through the clearing. Shadows moved, and the wolves closed in. Cliffhanger. One massive wolf, larger than the rest, stepped forward, its golden eyes locking on Ilara's unborn child. It let out a low, echoing growl, and in that instant, Ilara knew the night had only just begun. The forest seemed alive with 1,000 whispers, each tree and shadow holding secrets that Ilara could not understand. The howl of the alpha echoed through the darkness, a warning and a challenge. Her heart pounded, not just with fear, but with the strange, fierce determination that had been growing since the first warning. She would protect her child, no matter what. Kale stood beside her, calm and alert. His presence was a shield, a mixture of strength and reassurance. His eyes never left the shadows, and the sword in his hand gleamed faintly in the pale moonlight. "Stay close," he said, his voice low, carrying a weight of authority that made her feel both safe and exposed. "They will test us, but we can survive this." Lara clutched the pendant tightly in her hand. It pulsed gently, warm against her palm as though alive. Somehow she knew it was connected to her child's blood, a thread of magic she did not yet understand. Magic that the wolves could sense. The pack circled them, unseen in the dense mist. Their howls were everywhere, but no wolf stepped into the clearing yet. The tension was unbearable, and Ilara felt the weight of countless eyes upon her. Then, from the corner of her vision, movement. A shadow shifted unnaturally fast, slipping between the trees. Kale caught it immediately, stepping in front of her, sword ready. A single wolf emerged, its fur a deep, iridescent black. Its golden eyes were unnervingly intelligent. It did not growl or snarl, only stared, as if it could see the very life force of her child. Ilara's knees nearly gave way. "They are testing us," Kale said. "This one is the scout. The alpha will come soon." Lara swallowed hard. "Why? Why do they want my child?" she whispered. Kale's jaw tightened. "Your child carries the magic of old bloodlines. It is more than life, it is destiny. The wolves were cursed centuries ago to protect or claim this magic. They cannot control it, and they cannot ignore it." Ilara shivered. "So, they're going to take my baby?" Kale shook his head. "Not if we survive, but they will try, and they will push us to the limit." The wolf stepped closer, each movement precise, deliberate, and unnerving. Its gaze never left the small curve of her belly. Ilara felt a surge of anger, fierce and protective. "I will not let you take it," she said. Her voice stronger than she expected. The wolf's ears twitched, and it tilted its head, almost curious. Then, without warning, it turned and vanished into the forest, melting into the shadows as if it had never been there. Kale exhaled slowly. "That was a warning," he said. "They are testing your courage, your instinct to protect. They do not respect fear, only strength." Lara's hands trembled, but she felt a spark of something else, something deep inside her she had not known before. Courage, determination. She realized that her child had already begun to change her. Not just in body, but in spirit. "We need to move," Kale said. He led her deeper into the forest, away from the clearing, toward a place he called the refuge. The path was narrow, winding, and overgrown. Mist clung to every branch, and the moonlight barely touched the ground. Every sound, the snap of a twig, the rustle of a leaf made Ilara jump. She was hyper-aware of every movement, every shadow. After hours of careful travel, they reached a small glade, hidden and protected by thick, ancient trees. Kale knelt by a shallow stream and motioned for her to sit. The pendant in her hand pulsed more strongly here, so they would recognize the safety of this place. "This will be our temporary refuge," Kale said. "The wolves will not easily find this place, but we cannot stay for long." Ilara lowered herself to the ground, exhaustion and fear weighing on her. How do I protect my child?" she asked quietly. "I don't even know what I am up against." Kale's eyes softened as he studied her. "You protect your child by believing in yourself," he said. "You are stronger than you know. The wolves sense more than just your child, they sense your heart, your will. If you are afraid, they will push harder. But if you stand firm, they hesitate. They respect courage, Lara closed her eyes and placed her hands on her belly. She imagined a shield of light surrounding the small life within her, warmth and protection she had never felt before. She realized that the child inside her was already powerful, already a force the world could not ignore. Hours passed. The forest remained eerily quiet, and Alara began to relax, thinking they might have survived the night. But just as her eyelids grew heavy, Kale stiffened. His head turned, listening intently. "They are coming," he said, his voice barely a whisper. "All of them." The ground trembled with the approach of the pack. The mist thickened, swirling like living smoke. Shapes emerged, dozens of wolves, black and gray, moving as one. Their eyes glowed golden, reflecting the moonlight. Every sense in Alara screamed danger. Kale moved in front of her again. "Stay behind me," he commanded. "Do not show fear." Alara nodded, her heart racing. She felt the child move, almost as if it sensed the danger too. A strange warmth spread through her, steadying her nerves. She realized that this moment, this night, was a test, a trial not only of survival, but of who she could be as a mother, a protector, and a force in her own right. The wolves stopped at the edge of the glade. The alpha stepped forward, larger and more imposing than any she had imagined. Its fur shimmered like shadow, its eyes burning with an intelligence that made her stomach tighten. Kale's hand rested on the hilt of his sword, but he did not strike. Instead, he spoke to the alpha in a low, strange language, a mix of sounds that Alara did not understand. The alpha paused, tilting its head. Then it spoke not in words she could comprehend, but in thoughts she could feel. Sharp and clear in her mind, the child belongs to the pack. The child is destiny. You cannot hide it. Alara felt a chill run down her spine. It can hear me," she whispered. Kale nodded. "Not just hear. It can read intentions. That is why we must be strong, and why you must be fearless. Your child will be protected if you show strength, not fear." The wolves circled slowly, but the alpha did not attack. Instead, it studied her, and in that moment, Alara realized something extraordinary. The wolves were not mindless beasts. They were bound to the ancient magic of her child, and they were testing her. Measuring her resolve, summoning every ounce of courage, Alara stood tall. "This child is mine," she said clearly, her voice carrying over the glade. "I will protect it. You will not have it. Not now. Not ever." The alpha's eyes flared brighter, and a low, resonant growl rolled through the forest. The mist twisted and swirled, and for a moment felt as though the forest itself was holding its breath. Then the alpha stepped back, lowering its head slightly, acknowledging her words. The wolves did not leave, but their stance softened. Kale exhaled, tension leaving his body for a moment. "You did well," he said quietly, placing a hand on her shoulder. "They respect courage, but this is only the beginning. They will not stop coming. And they are not the only danger." Lara's hands went to her belly again. The child moved, almost as if responding to her courage. A sense of wonder and fear mingled in her chest. She was not alone in this fight. Her child, Kale, and now her own strength would guide her. The night stretched on. But for the first time, Alara felt a spark of hope. She understood that the forest, the wolves, and the magic of her child were all part of a story far larger than herself. A story that demanded bravery, resilience, and trust. But even as she felt hope, a shadow stirred at the edge of the glade. Something darker than the wolves, older and more cunning, watched silently. Alara did not see it, but Kale did. His eyes narrowed. "They are not finished," he whispered. "And neither is your journey. Tonight was only a test. The real trial is yet to come." Alara swallowed hard. She looked down at her belly and felt the child move again, strong and determined. She touched it gently, whispering promises she hoped she could keep. "We will survive this. Together." The forest held its breath as the mist thickened. The wolves lingered at the edge, watching, waiting, their golden eyes gleaming like lanterns in the darkness. And somewhere deep within the shadows, an even older force stirred, ready to claim what it believed was rightfully its own. Alara knew with certainty the night was far from over, and the fight for her child's life had only just begun. The dawn came slowly, spilling pale light through the misty forest. Alara sat on the soft moss of the glade, her hands resting protectively on her belly. The wolves had stayed at the edge of the trees all night, watching but not attacking, their golden eyes never leaving her. Every time she glanced at Kale, she saw the same mixture of determination and worry mirrored in his dark eyes. "They won't leave us alone," he said quietly, breaking the silence. "And it's not just them. Something older is moving in the shadows, something that has waited for centuries for your child to be born." Lara's heart clenched. "What? What is it?" she asked, her voice trembling. Kale shook his head. "I don't know entirely, but I know it is dangerous. More dangerous than the wolves, and it wants your child." Fear surged through her, but beneath it was something else, a spark of defiance. She would not cower. She would not let her child be taken. Somehow, deep in her bones, she knew that her child had been chosen for something greater, and that meant she could not fail. Kale studied her with a thoughtful expression. "You need to understand something," he said. "The wolves are not evil. They are bound to the old magic, and they respond to power and courage. Your child has both, even before birth. But there are others who do not respect balance. They will try to claim it for their own." Lara swallowed hard. She had never imagined such a world existed, a world where magic lingered in bloodlines, where ancient creatures guarded destiny itself. Yet now, with her child moving inside her and the forest alive with unseen eyes, she had no doubt. Kale rose and began pacing the edge of the glade. His movements were deliberate, controlled, but every so often he glanced at her with a flicker of something else, fear, perhaps, or longing. "I have to tell you the truth about me," he said finally. "I was not always what I am now. I was one of them once. A wolf, cursed centuries ago. I lost my humanity and I was bound to the forest, bound to the old magic. Until now." Elara's eyes widened. You were a wolf." Kale nodded. "I was part of the pack. I remember it all, the hunts, the instincts, the hunger for what is not ours. But I retained something human inside me, a fragment. And when I sensed your child, I realized this could be my chance to redeem myself." Her fear did not leave, but a new understanding took its place. Kale was not just a protector. He had his own redemption to seek, and somehow it was tied to her child. "Then, we're connected," she whispered. "Not just by danger, but by destiny." Kale looked at her, a flicker of vulnerability breaking through his stoic exterior. "Yes," he said. "We are." The forest grew quiet as the morning sun climbed higher. For a few hours, there was peace, but it was fragile. Elara could feel it. The wolves would return. Whatever older force Kale had mentioned would not wait. They moved deeper into the forest, toward an abandoned ruin Kale called the Sanctuary. It was said to be a place where human and supernatural magic intersected. Safe haven from the wolves' instinct and the darker powers that lurked beyond. The path was treacherous roots that threatened to trip them, narrow streams swollen with melted snow, and branches that clawed at their faces like the fingers of restless spirits. During a brief pause by a small stream, Kale handed Elara a vial of water infused with herbs. "Drink," he instructed. "It will calm the child and strengthen your own magic. You have more power than you know." Lara took the vial with shaking hands. She had always believed she was ordinary, yet everything happening now suggested otherwise. The warmth of the water spread through her body, and she felt a strange energy linking her to the forest itself. The child stirred, and she smiled faintly. Perhaps this small life was already teaching her courage. As they approached the sanctuary, a low growl echoed through the trees. The mist thickened, swirling around them, and shapes moved at the edge of her vision. The wolves had returned, and this time there were more than before. Kale moved in front of her, his sword ready. "Stay close," he ordered. "We will not run, but we must be careful. They are testing us, again." The wolves emerged, circling slowly. Their golden eyes gleamed with intelligence, and their movements were precise, almost ceremonial. The alpha led them, stepping forward with deliberate grace. It stopped a few paces from Alara, tilting its head as if measuring her resolve. Alara took a deep breath. She remembered Kale's words, courage, not fear. "We will not be intimidated," she said, her voice stronger than she expected. "We will protect what is ours. My child is not yours to claim." The alpha paused. Then it lowered its head slightly, acknowledging her strength. The other wolves mirrored the gesture, their posture softening. Alara felt a strange sense of respect emanating from them. Even as they remained dangerous and powerful, Kale exhaled, shoulders relaxing for the first time since the night had begun. "Well done," he murmured. "They respect courage, but the challenge is not over. There is more to come. I can feel it." Alara looked around, sensing the forest holding its breath. Then, suddenly, the shadows shifted unnaturally, and a chill ran through her spine. Something older than the wolves, darker than the forest itself, had emerged. From between the trees, a figure stepped forward. It was cloaked in shadow, its form flickering as if it were part of the mist. Its eyes glowed with a deep, otherworldly light. Alara's breath caught in her throat. The presence was overwhelming, ancient, and it focused entirely on her child. Kale's expression darkened. "It's here," he said quietly. "The force I warned you about. It has waited centuries for this moment, and it wants your child more than life itself." Alara's hands instinctively went to her belly. Fear surged, but beneath it, determination burned brighter than ever. She would not let this creature take what was hers. Not her child. Not her future. The shadow moved closer, its steps silent yet heavy with power. Kale stepped forward, placing himself between Alara and the dark figure. "You will not touch them," he said, his voice firm. "I will not allow it." The figure paused, studying them, then tilted its head. A cold wind swept through the sanctuary, rustling leaves and bending branches. Alara felt the pulse of magic within her child grow stronger. It was as if the child understood the danger and was responding, ready to protect itself and her. Kale's eyes met hers. "We must face this together," he said. "Your courage and the child's power, they are our only chance." Alara nodded, drawing in a steadying breath. She felt the warmth of the pendant against her chest, and with it, a sense of calm determination. The wolves at the edge of the clearing watched silently, their golden eyes now alert and still. They seemed to recognize the challenge ahead. Waiting to see how it would unfold, the shadow moved closer, and a voice not spoken but felt in her mind echoed, "The child belongs to destiny. No human will stop what has been written." Alara's heart pounded. She felt the child move sharply inside her, almost as if in defiance. "They are wrong," she whispered aloud. "We are stronger than destiny." Kale's hand brushed hers briefly, a spark of connection in the tense silence. "Together," he said, "we face this together." The shadow surged forward suddenly, faster than anything Alara had seen. The wolves howled, a warning and a signal, and Kale raised his sword. The forest seemed to hold its breath as the first confrontation began, not of violence, but of wills. Alara felt something awaken within her, a strength and clarity she had never known. She whispered words she didn't understand, yet somehow knew, words of protection, of courage, of life. A wave of energy radiated from her, encircling her and her child. Pushing back the shadow momentarily, the shadow recoiled, but it was not defeated. Its presence remained more dangerous than ever. Kale's eyes were fixed on it, his sword poised, but he did not strike. He understood, as Alara did now, that this battle was more than physical. It was about heart, will, and the courage to claim one's own destiny. Alara felt the warmth of the child grow stronger, a steady pulse of power and life that filled her with hope. She realized, with a deep certainty, that they could not be broken, not if they faced this together. And then, as the shadow retreated slightly, a whisper drifted through the forest, cold and menacing. "This is only the beginning." Alara's hands tightened on her belly. She looked at Kale, determination blazing in her eyes. "We will not fail," she said, "no matter what comes next." Kale nodded. We fight, and we survive. Together. The wolves at the edge of the clearing watched silently, golden eyes glimmering like lanterns in the morning mist. And somewhere deeper in the forest, unseen and patient, the older force waited, its intent unbroken, its power growing. Lara knew one thing with absolute clarity. The trial for her child's life was far from over, and the path ahead would demand everything she had. The forest seemed to hold its breath, the mist thick and heavy around Alara and Kale. The shadow had not moved far, waiting, patient and silent. Alara felt the child stir inside her, a small pulse of life and power that strengthened her resolve. Every instinct she had told her that the night ahead would be the ultimate test, not just of survival, but of courage, love, and the bond between mother and child. Kale's hand rested lightly on hers, grounding her. "Remember," he said, his voice low, "we face this together. Your courage, your child's strength, and my own will together, we can protect what is ours." Alara nodded, taking a deep, steadying breath. She could feel a warmth growing in her chest, spreading to her belly, wrapping around the child. The pendant against her skin pulsed in harmony, a steady heartbeat that matched her own. Somehow she knew the child's magic was awakening fully, ready to respond to her determination. The shadow stirred again, moving faster this time. The mist shifted like liquid around it, bending and twisting unnaturally. Alara felt a chill, but she did not retreat. She squared her shoulders and faced the darkness head-on. Kale stepped forward, sword raised, but even he did not strike. "This is not a fight of weapons," he murmured. "It is a battle of wills." Shadow pressed closer, its presence overwhelming. Alara felt the energy of the forest around her, ancient and wild, responding to her resolve. She placed her hands on her belly and whispered words she did not fully understand. But the language felt natural, as if it had always existed in her blood. A warm light radiated from her, gentle yet strong, spreading outward, forming a protective circle around her and Kale. The shadow recoiled slightly, hissing in frustration. It lunged again, but Alara held her ground, feeling the pulse of life from the child inside her, answering her courage. The wolves at the edge of the clearing howled, a chorus of warning and encouragement, golden eyes glimmering like stars in the mist. They, too, seemed to recognize the power of the bond between mother, child, and Kale. Kale moved closer, placing a protective arm around Alara. "Let the child guide you," he whispered. "Trust in them, as I trust in you." Alara closed her eyes, centering herself. She imagined the child's tiny heart as a beacon of light, spreading warmth and protection through the forest. The shadow shrieked, a sound that cut through the mist like ice. But it could not penetrate the strength of their combined will. The forest seemed to shift with her determination. Trees bent slightly, leaves rustled, and the mist swirled as if alive, forming a barrier that kept the shadow at bay. The wolves remained vigilant, circling silently, waiting for the moment to act if necessary. Alara opened her eyes and focused on the shadow. "You will not have my child," she said firmly, her voice carrying through the clearing. "You will not take what is ours. Leave and never return." The shadow hesitated. Its form flickered, wavering as if uncertain. Then it surged forward, faster than before, and the mist around it thickened into a dark storm. Alara's hands glowed with a warm, steady light, her power flowing from her to the child, and from the child back to her. She felt a surge of connection, of life and courage intertwined. Kale's eyes widened as he witnessed the child's power. "They are stronger than I thought," he murmured. "Stronger than anyone could have imagined." The shadow screamed, a sound that shook the trees and rattled the ground. But Alara did not falter. She let the warmth of her heart and the child's energy radiate fully, a shield of life and love that the shadow could not overcome. Suddenly, a brilliant light burst from the pendant around her neck. Joining the glow from her hands and the child within her, the shadow recoiled, screeching in fury and confusion, unable to penetrate the combined power. It twisted and writhed. Then, with a final, desperate howl, retreated into the depths of the forest. Leaving a trail of dissipating mist behind it, Elara fell to her knees, breathing heavily but alive. Cale knelt beside her, brushing hair from her face and offering a small, relieved smile. "It's over," he said softly. "For now." Elara's hands rested on her belly. The child moved gently, as if acknowledging the victory. She smiled faintly through tears of relief. "We did it," she whispered. "We survived." Cale placed a hand over hers. "Not just survived," he said. "We protected what is most precious. And we learned something important too. And your child are stronger than any force that comes against you." The wolves stepped forward from the edge of the clearing, golden eyes softening. They bowed their heads slightly, acknowledging her courage. The alpha approached, its eyes meeting hers with an unspoken understanding. They were no longer enemies, but witnesses to the strength of a human and the child she carried. Elara stood slowly, feeling the forest around her settle. The mist thinned, sunlight breaking through the canopy for the first time that day. She realized the forest itself was no longer threatening, but protective, a world that had tested her and now accepted her courage. Cale turned to her, his dark eyes full of warmth and admiration. "You have changed everything," he said. "Your bravery, your bond with the child, your willingness to face fear, it has shifted the balance of this place. Even the wolves recognize it." Elara smiled faintly, feeling both exhaustion and a strange new confidence. "I couldn't have done it without you," she said. Cale shook his head gently. "No, you did this yourself. I only stood beside you. It was your heart, your courage, and your child's strength that protected them. Remember that." The forest was quiet now, the danger past. But Elara knew this victory was only the beginning. She looked around, seeing the sanctuary in a new light. A place of protection? Yes, but also a place where magic, courage, and love intertwined. Days passed in the sanctuary, each one bringing more strength to Elara and her child. She learned to sense the magic of the forest, to feel the energy of life and protection flowing through the trees, the soil, and even the wolves. Cale taught her about the balance between human and supernatural worlds, about the importance of courage, patience, and trust. Their bond deepened as well, a quiet, unspoken connection that grew with each shared moment. Cale's past, his curse, and his redemption intertwined with her courage and determination. Together, they formed a partnership grounded not in fear, but in trust, love, and the shared purpose of protecting the child. One evening, as the sun set behind the forest canopy, casting long golden beams across the glade, Cale turned to Elara. "We have done what we can here," he said. "But the world beyond this forest is still dangerous. There are others who may come for the child. We must be ready, always." Elara nodded. "Then we will be ready," she said, her voice steady and strong. "We are stronger together, and we will protect what is ours, no matter what comes." The wolves gathered at the edge of the clearing, watching silently. The alpha stepped forward, bowing its head once more in acknowledgement. They would remain as guardians, allies now rather than enemies. A reminder of the bond between courage, magic, and protection. As night fell, the stars shone brightly above the sanctuary, reflecting in the eyes of the wolves and casting a soft glow over the forest. Elara placed her hands on her belly, feeling the gentle movements of the child within. She whispered promises of protection, love, and strength, knowing that they had survived the greatest trial so far, but that life would continue to test them. Cale knelt beside her, wrapping a protective arm around her shoulders. "You have changed everything," he said again. "Your courage, your love, and your child's strength, they have shifted the balance. This forest, these wolves, even the darkness that waited, they all recognize it." Elara rested her head against Cale's shoulder, feeling a sense of peace she had never known. The danger was not gone completely, but they had faced it together. They had survived and they had grown stronger. The forest was no longer a place of fear, but a world that acknowledged courage, love, and the power of life itself. And as she looked down at her belly, feeling the gentle heartbeat of her child, she knew that the bond they shared, mother, protector, and the child, was unbreakable. The wolves howled softly, a song of respect and acknowledgement echoing through the sanctuary. Ilara smiled, knowing that no matter what came next, they would face it together. She and Kale, with their child, had created a new path, one of courage, love, and hope. The forest settled into silence, but in the distance, a faint rustle reminded them that life was always moving, always changing. The child within her stirred, responding to the world outside, ready to grow, to live, and to face whatever destiny awaited. Ilara whispered, "We are ready." Kale nodded, holding her close. The wolves watched, still and silent. Guardians of a bond forged in courage and love, and for the first time in her life, Ilara felt truly safe.